the race during the deluge. And the deluge is to be caused by adultery between divine and mortal beings. The accepted scriptures then continue with the building of a 500-foot ark to save humanity. Well, we know better. Or at least we know better when we look at what these early ancient records and stories are trying to tell us. And when we see that the natural perfection of the earth was destroyed at the time of the gods interbreeding with our race. And then we can understand the adultery parable. We see that the mantle hanging over our perfection planet was lifted by a change in our atomic structure. And the altered atoms ascended into what we call the Van Allen radiation belt, and the alteration brought on a new cleansing action. And instead of being regenerated by pure solar radiation, our Earth was suddenly cut off from the full spectrum of the sun and had to be periodically rejuvenated by floods. Now, these floods washed the land masses with element-laden seawater and exposed new mineral-rich rock. According to the Egyptian records, these cyclic floods occurred every 3,000 or 400 years or so. According to their scribes, the sun would stand still and then reverse herself as our poles shifted and the polar ice imbalance and buildup was corrected through cataclysmic surface changes in our planet. Well, the only survivors of these pole shifts, of course, were often saved because of boats and later wound up living in caves just like the cavemen till the weather settled down again. And this weather often was very out of proportion, hostile for 100 or 200 years. Now there are at least 40 races that have traditions of their ancestors surviving these floods, and most of them were surviving through the use of small boats, rafts and such. And this is scattered all over the globe, these legends. Rather than being an actual physical account of the polar shift survivors of this area of the world, the Noah account is similar to a half a dozen earlier accounts of the chaos brought on by the exiled gods and their alteration of our perfection here. Now, the Egyptians used the term ark as a preserver of the sacred genes of humanity and the life forms on earth. And Pandora's box, as we noted, is a more vivid example of this same idea. Now, while there were survivors, ships that survived the floods, most of the Bible is referring to symbolism, the early legends and traditions. And a naked Noah symbolized a naked earth, and according to rabbinical lore went into partnership with Satan, growing crops for prophets. There are almost 400 accounts of this deluge and a similar Noah over the face of the earth. And this figures are contained in the legends and myths and accounts of other races, as we pointed out, all over the globe. And all of these controversial traditions keep alive the awesome original event where our Earth's perfection was suddenly disrupted by the entrance of this alien contamination, an alteration that brought on periodical physical disaster to life forms here. And in the Assurbanipal library at Nineveh, there are 3,000 lines of cuneiform script telling of the flood 700 years before the later version of Moses and the Hebrews came along. Now, in other presentations, we cover these periodical pole shifts or axis shifts, and we show proof of their occurrence and when the next one is coming and due. Now later in our Bible we have mention of the Tower of Babel, and this shows a period where magi and spiritual leaders from all parts of the world were brought to Babylon and taught the deeper truths that these gods of old felt that should be given out to humanity. And the observatory and other structures of Chichen Itza in Central America are close copies of the structures at Babylon during this period. And with such a diverse assemblage of travelers, the people of the time associated this with a babel and tongues. Well, we can see that this confusion and chaos on the planet was brought here simply as another alien system that created chaos here, not as a purposeful intent of any Satan. Now, it's Satan's goal to bring about a paradise on earth, according to the records, but the intelligence level of humans must be slowly raised to a higher level, since most humans are more interested in sitting under banana trees in leisure than raising their intellect in some chaotic work situation. Because of this, the domination systems use force and chaos and strife on humanity to get them going, to uplift them mentally. You'll notice the dominion systems always encourage gain through mental action and manipulation. And persons who actually produce things are discouraged and kept under control. And the paper pushers and bankers and non-producers ensure humanity is even always under mental stress. And this, the domination fields, helps to increase the brain load and the wattage increase. Now, the Tower of Babel scenario is also an early symbolic Bible story of the system's priority here, the domination system. As the Jewish priests borrowed from the earlier stories of other cultures, there was a blending of truth and fiction and symbolism, which is difficult to sort out in detail, yet very simple in principle. Many of the biblical characters are simply borrowed from earlier creation and causation accounts that still held the ancient knowledge and traditions intact. And even Jewish scholars admit this, up to the accounts of patriarchs like Abraham. Well, Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, which translated means he came from the place of demons, which was Chaldee. The Ur or Ur term is the same as the light of Lucifer. And Abram is driven from his Eden to become the racial father of the Jews. Well, also according to the old accounts, the scriptures, Melchizedek is the positive principle or personification of choice and good, greater in stature and purity than Abraham. Well, the little-known secret or fact here is that the Jews carry the DNA genetic patterns much heavier of the dominion systems, this alien intelligence that Satan so-called and the alien technological intelligence is brought here. They carry it in a purer form than any other race. They even continue to keep this DNA lineage pure. In Zechariah 12:3 it says, "I will make Jerusalem a stone of burden for all of the people." Well, by manipulating and perpetuating the same old dominion gods and their dominion systems, it's easier for the manipulators of the world to hold the followers of the world in check.